All right, let's do this little quote happy assignment, which is going to be a review of clipping masks, but then also going to introduce you to layer masks, which are going to be the powerful thing in Photoshop. So we're going to start off by creating a new project, 8.5 inches by 11. Remember, change it to inches first and then type in those numbers and hit create. We are going to eventually make the background black. So if you want to, you could go ahead and try to set that at the beginning. I don't have that choice on mine here, but it says background to background. My background is white, so it's not going to matter. I'm going to hit create. Your document should look like this. If it's not this shape, you're already off to the wrong start. So make sure that it looks like this. All right, so this is the assignment. We're going to make something that looks kind of like this. So notice that my head is inside these letters, and half of it, and the other half is just me. And then there's going to be me cut off my background down here in the corner and my name. So you need to make sure you take a picture of yourself against a solid wall. Like just go up against a white wall. It needs to be pretty close up, head and shoulders. We don't need much more because you want it to take up as much of this frame as possible. So feel free to kind of turn your head sideways like I did so that it takes up more space, or fluff your hair out really big, or if you're a guy, wear a hat, or if you're a girl, wear a hat. Anybody wear a hat. Whatever you want to do there is totally fine. But try to do it against a solid wall. So you can take a little selfie, pop it onto your Google Drive, and then you're going to use it. Now, we are not opening the picture. We are starting with this blank document, okay? All right, now we're going to place the image of you. So you're going to go to File and Place. It's under Open and Place in here, and under Photoshop, it would be under Place Embedded. So I'm going to go find the picture of me right here and hit open, and that's going to put it in here. Now, I still see a little bit of white around the edges, so I'm going to hold down shift and pull from this corner and this corner. I also have a light switch going on over here, so I'm going to make it a little bigger than it needs to be, scoot it over so we don't have light switch issues, okay? But again, you want your head to touch the top, and you want to make sure the bottom is fully in there, okay? All right, so there I am. I'm in there. I'm going to have a couple of versions of me, so we'll call this my U1. Um, you're going to end up needing 3 of you in the end of all of this, but you can duplicate that layer. So we're going to duplicate the layer, right click it, and duplicate it. And I'm going to just, for the sake of keeping these straight, call this U2. And then you might go ahead later on at the end, you're going to have another copy of yourself. So you could go ahead and just make a third copy if you want to. Oops. And I'm going to turn these off so you don't see except for the one that I need to work with first. Okay, so we're going to deal with U1 first. All right. We're going to create a new layer for the background. Well, it already had one, so we don't have to do that. Fill the background with black. So you can go to your background layer. Be sure you're clicked in the right place. You could go to just edit fill and then fill it to black. I have black on top. That's my foreground. Or you can choose it from the list and it's going to fill it with black. And you can't see it because your picture's in the way. Your other option could be to use filter and go to render and clouds. And it takes whatever 2 colors are over here and it makes clouds. See, that's kind of fun. So you could do that, or like instead of black and white, choose like black and gray and render clouds. What it does is it takes those 2 colors. Okay, so that's kind of fun. I think I'll leave that one on this example. Okay, so now you got your background in there. Now we're going to add your text layer with your quote. And we only want the quote to cover about half the document, and use a really fat font. Okay, then a clipping mask, and we're going to clip the U1 into the text. Okay, I'm just going to say don't worry, be happy this time. So you're going to click your type tool. You might want to go ahead and find you a fat font. I'll try this Lolita 1 this time. Okay, and then click one time and wait a second to make sure that it takes. Okay, there it is. It's good. It's not very big, but I'll make it bigger in a minute. Oops, it didn't get it. I hate when that happens. It happens to you guys too. I'm going to delete that layer and we're going to try one more time. It doesn't really like you to mess with any of these settings once you click. I'm going to go ahead and start this out at about 75. Okay, I'm underneath my picture of myself, by the way, which is why I can't see it. Enter, worry, comma, be, enter, happy, exclamation mark. Okay, when I hit check mark, it's really in here, but I need to move it to the top. Okay, and I didn't make it all capitals. You can kind of cheat on this whole capitals thing. If you bring up your character panel under Window, you can hit this little button and make it all capitals. So I forgot to type that part in all capitals. We'll just do that. We'll cheat the system a little bit. Okay, so there it is. I'm actually going to make super happy just because I want it to take more space up. Plus, I use the word super a lot, as we all know. Okay, so I've got that there. And I'm just going to kind of scoot this over a bit. It's kind of better if it doesn't touch your eyeball, but it's just going to have to touch my eyeball. Okay, so I've got that there. Now we're going to clipping mask this U into the text. So when you clipping mask, put the picture of you above it, right click the picture, and clipping mask. And in Photoshop, it's create clipping mask. Okay, there it is. And now that's in there. Okay, now click back on the text, not the picture, because we need to have like a little bit of a bevel and a glow on the text. So I'm going to add my layer style with the EFF button, add a little bevel on there, maybe a tiny bit of an outer glow. Make sure it doesn't look like a stroke. Like it needs to look, fuzzy, like, oops, I'm on the wrong thing. Click the right thing, outer glow. Gosh, I hate when that happens. Don't use noise. We don't want it to be ugly. We want it to be fuzzy. So spread and size are the two you're going to mess with. Okay, there we go. Maybe a little too much size to that, but okay. So that's glowy. All right, and if it's like too dark, you can pull the opacity back a little bit. But okay, I'm gonna hit OK. All right, now we're done with this one, and we're gonna turn on the other U layer. Okay, and on the other U layer, we are gonna use the rectangle marquee tool. Now we haven't used selection tools yet. That's what this whole next unit is about. So we're gonna use the marquee tool, and we're gonna draw it over the part we want to keep. Okay, over the part we want to keep. So here I go. I'm going to grab my marquee tool. That's this one. And I'm going to click and hold and choose rectangle select. And I'm not sure what your thing will be up on here, but make sure it's on the first button, which is just to make a new selection. That way, if you mess up and you start drawing again, it won't add to the old one. Okay, so now I'm just going to take about half this and I'm going to draw a rectangle. It's going to put the marching ants around it. Now, if you have to redo this to get rid of the marching ants, you go to select, deselect, or press Control D. Anytime those marching ants are there and you don't need them, Control D. Okay, now I have my marching ants. So now I'm going to add a layer mask. And there's a button down here on your layers panel to add a mask. It's the circle inside of a rectangle. Bam. And what that does is it hides it. And what's cool about layer masks is if I hold shift and I click this, you can see before and after. I didn't erase it. I didn't delete it. I just masked it. And mask means to hide. So the black hides, just like with a clipping mask, where the picture is not in the letters, it's hidden, right? So this is so, so simple and way better than like deleting stuff. Okay, so from here on out, we're done with the eraser. No more eraser. Everything will be using masks. Okay, so I've done that. Now we're going to use one more picture and we're going to add a layer mask. But before that, I'm going to show you how to use the magic wand, which is why I asked you to take a picture of yourself on a white wall, because we're going to try to use the magic wand to get rid of your white background. Okay, so I'm going to turn on this me. And we need to size this down because it's going to be way too big. We're in Photopea, so to resize, edit, transform, actually go to edit, free transform, and then hold down shift and pull from the corner. This one's just going to go down here somewhere. And I mean, your body's going to kind of catch the edge there. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit just so I'm kind of chilling in the corner here. Okay, good enough. I'm going to hit enter. And now I've got to get rid of what I don't need on here. So I'm going to use my magic wand for starters, and I'm going to zoom up, and I really strongly suggest that you zoom up with me. Okay, so I'm on this layer. This is a smart object because I placed it. Now, if you didn't place it, yours is not a smart object, and it's easier to make sure you don't mess this up if it's a smart object, because you can't erase or delete accidentally on a smart object. So that's how you can kind of protect yourself here. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and choose. It's under this funny little bean thing on Photopea. It's not on Photoshop, but Magic Wand. That's what we're looking for. It has tolerance like the Magic Eraser does. So I'm just going to shoot for 34 here and see what happens. I'm going to click on the white. You got to make sure you're on the right layer. I'm going to click on the white, and there you go. It selected it. Now, it selected a little bit too much of stuff, but you know what? That's kind of okay. The other thing is I have this button checked. or unchecked. Contiguous means touching. I didn't require mine to be touching. So basically, it selected any part of the picture that had white in it, including in my face and in my shirt and all of that. So I'm going to press Control D and do it again, but with contiguous check mark. Yours is automatically going to be check marked. Okay, I'll click on it. All right, now it didn't get any of the parts inside. It's kind of up to you. I mean, you can do it either way. It doesn't really matter. Okay. All right, now if I add a layer mask now, don't do that because this is what happens. That's wrong, right? It's opposite of what we need. So what we're gonna do, and again, you could like redo this. If I could press Control D if I felt like it wasn't getting enough or it needed to get more, and I could change these numbers and like try it again and see what happens. You know, it's totally up to you on that. But um, once you're kind of happy with the area it's selected, remember what it's selecting is what you're going to get rid of. You have to invert the selection before you add the mask. Okay, so you're basically going to right click in the selection and you're going to go to inverse. Okay, right click in the selection and go to inverse. And then now what it's actually selected is everything else. And now if I push the button, bam, it takes care of it. Now you may be saying, that doesn't look the greatest. And you're right. I mean, I could still, the cool thing is I could delete this mask and say, you know what, let's see if it can get a little closer to the head. All right, let's try that. And then right click, inverse, and add the mask. Okay, so that's a little better. It's a little tighter to the head. And again, I'm going to teach you better techniques later on, but we're just not there yet. Okay. Now, I do have some issues. I've lost my shoulder and I've got part of this thing here that I don't need. So here's the cool thing about masks. You paint on a mask like you paint with an eraser to erase. It's just you don't do it on the picture, you do it on the mask. So I'm going to click on this white box. That's the mask. I'm going to click my paintbrush tool. And I'm just, for now, I'm going to stick with a hard brush just so you can see it work like an eraser. And you're going to reset these colors down here. Hit the baby squares to make it black and white, okay? White means show, black means hide. So I'm going to switch these. You can press the X button on your keyboard to switch them. So black's on top. And then if I'm clicked on the mask, not the picture, on the mask, it's like erasing. Look at that. That's it. And then if I switch the colors, hit that little arrow or press X, and I paint on the mask, but over here, I'm painting it back in. Look at that. Isn't that fancy? And we'll get into like how do you deal with hair and stuff like that later on. So I don't expect yours to be like 100% perfect on this. I just want you to kind of get used to using masks. And remember, you can disable the mask. You don't have to delete it. So if you wanted to see like what you're missing, you can just disable it for a minute and then right click it and re-enable it. All right, your last bit is just going to be to add your name. Um, I'm going to do a text on a path. So you don't have to do it on a path, but you know, I'm going to grab my pen, set it on path, click once here, and then click over here, but not let go and drag to make a curve until I like it. All right, that's good. Press escape, grab my type tool, click, make sure it's on left, click on the end of this, and then type my name. And then I'm going to press Control A to select all of it because it's too big and it's moving around, doing crazy stuff. All right, there we are. And then I'll go find some kind of cutesy font. I don't know. Lifesavers. Sounds good. All right. And I'll turn off this all capitals business. All right, check mark. There we go. And there it is. And of course, I'm clicked on that work path, so that's why you see that. But that's what it looks like. And I can't, did I spell the word super wrong? I don't know. I don't see my super here very well. Remember, you can still move these around. And sometimes if you're going to do that, it's helpful to lock. Like I might want to lock this layer here so I don't accidentally grab hold of it. And I can grab this and move it around. Oh no, it's there. It's just my layer. Oh, my other layer's on top. Look at me. Okay. So my clipping mask layer, my words, needs to be higher than this layer here. So let's scoot this guy way down here. There we go. Now my words are on top. You got to watch those types of things. You also might even make some changes to your bevel. Like once you get in there, if it isn't, if it isn't working as well. Let's see. Like the depth there. That's a little bit better, I think. But anyway, you can play around with all your little settings there. And again, you can add other stuff too. Like you could throw a drop shadow on it as well if you wanted to, whatever you think looks good. But anyway, when you're finished, you're going to export that out as a JPEG, upload it into Canvas, and hopefully you've learned a little bit about masks. So hopefully I've given you enough information to be a little bit dangerous. Have fun.